Hi, I'm Rod Kurtz. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we've been following today. The Carney government does its latest number crunching on the deficit. We find out where things stand in Ottawa's new economic update. Plus, U.S. President Trump hails the cherished bond between the States and the U.K. as he welcomes King Charles III and Queen Camilla for a state visit. And we take you to Berlin for an interactive art installation featuring billionaires and Silicon Valley elites as robot dogs.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News.
Thanks for joining us. Federal Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne unveiled the Liberal government's economic update Tuesday in the Commons. It shows a shrinking deficit thanks to surging oil prices. Champagne's November 4th budget projected a deficit of $78.3 billion for the 25-26 fiscal year. But this April update puts the 25-26 deficit at $66.9 billion. That's $11.5 billion lower than the November number. This mid-year fiscal update includes $54.5 billion in new costs and spending since budget 2025. But the minister says the government is focused on affordability.
We understand that affordability is top of mind. That is really, Canadians understand, okay, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, but what about me? What about me now? And I was saying that if you look at the $7 billion, which is the additional revenues that have been generated, 2/3 of that is going towards affordability measures. And if you look at the new measures that we have put in the fiscal update 2026, it's about 50% of these measures which go toward affordability. So my point was we know we have a strong economy, but we need to help people where they are now, which is affordability. We're building the country for long-term growth, and at the same time, we need to build stronger communities, and that's why you have these two flagship measures, the Sovereign Fund on one end, and making sure that we have the apprentice, the Red Seal people, the tradespeople needed to build the country we all aspire to. So there's something about, building a Canada for all in that.
Champagne says if nothing is done to train new skilled trades, Canada will be short 20,000 workers per year. Ottawa is proposing to spend $6 billion to train 100,000 new skilled trades workers. Despite all the positive talk in this report, the document also contains significant levels of economic uncertainty in the years ahead, thanks to the Iran war and U.S. tariffs. Ontario school kids won't be happy to hear this. Education Minister Paul Calandra says, like Manitoba, Ontario's looking at a social media ban in schools and would like to go even further than that and just ban cell phones altogether.
Cell phone use in our schools, elementary and our secondary schools, anywhere on site, has become a problem. So we are considering an outright ban of cell phones on school properties across the province of Ontario. Obviously, for health reasons, we'll allow some exemptions to that. And we are going to be working closely with the federal government with respect to a broader social media ban. Frankly, for kids under a certain age. I know the federal government is interested in that. We're reviewing what Manitoba has done. I think it's a good opportunity for us in Ontario, but doesn't go necessarily as far as we would like it to go.
Calandra says most ministers of education across the country agree that if it's not beneficial, or rather that it is not beneficial, to allow students to have access to phones and social media in schools. Ontario Provincial Police are mourning the loss of one of their own today. OPP Sergeant Brandon Malcolm died in a motorcycle crash while on duty east of Toronto. Malcolm was a member of the Northumberland detachment in the OPP's central region. OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrick told reporters on Monday night Malcolm was traveling eastbound on Highway 401 at the time of the crash and was on duty. Officers were responding to a call when two cruisers collided with a stopped vehicle. That sent 3 officers to hospital, but they were later released. Carrick added there's no evidence to indicate that there was another vehicle involved in the crash that killed Malcolm. Carrick says Malcolm was a respected officer whose life was taken far too soon. Malcolm had been a member of the Canadian Armed Forces. He joined the OPP in 2020. Well, despite some political strain in recent months, U.S. President Donald Trump hailed the cherished bond between the United States and the United Kingdom Tuesday as he welcomed King Charles III and Queen Camilla for a state visit. Trump even reflected on his mother's crush on one particular royal.
Anytime the Queen was involved in a ceremony or anything, my mother would be glued to the television and she'd say, "Look, Donald, look how beautiful that is." She really did love the family, but I also remember her saying very clearly, "Charles, look, young Charles, he's so cute." It's my mother. My mother had a crush on Charles. Can you believe it? Amazing how, I wonder what she's thinking right now. His Majesty's intellect, passion, and devotion have been really a blessing to the British people. But not only to his own country, but to the cherished bond between the United States and the United Kingdom. And I am very certain that it will continue that way long into the future.
This 4-day state visit, touted as a celebration of America's 250th anniversary, is the King's first U.S. trip since his coronation in 2023. A U.S. soldier appeared in a New York City courtroom today accused of using classified information about a targeted mission to win money on a prediction platform called Polymarket. It's alleged that Master Sergeant Gannon Ken Van Dyke used classified information from his work in the planning and execution of the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro to place 13 bets on the outcome of the operation. Prosecutors claim Van Dyke placed bets between December 27th and January 2nd, hours before soldiers entered Venezuelan airspace for the pre-dawn operation. After President Donald Trump made the operation public later that day, Van Dyke allegedly profited more than $409,000. In court today, Van Dyke entered a plea of not guilty. Well, back here at home, today is the National Day of Mourning, a time to remember those who lost their lives due to workplace incidents, illness, or injury. Alberta's Minister of Jobs, Economy, Trade and Immigration, Joseph Scow, says Alberta registered 144 workplace deaths in 2025. He says behind every death is a family forever changed, a workplace impacted, and a community left grieving. Meanwhile, workplace safety specialist Tim Scott says this day also serves as a reminder that every worker deserves to return home safely, and preventing future tragedies must remain a shared responsibility of employers, workers, and governments alike.
There's no job so important that it can't be done safely. But I think with proper planning and proper understanding of hazards, the safe way to do the job, if planned properly, is most often the most efficient way to do it as well. Continue working on continuous improvement every year, which we do, and trying to be proactive about the programs and the training that we provide. Anybody at any position can do a job so often that they sort of take it for granted that they know and they believe that everything's exactly the same every day, but that oftentimes isn't the case. And so we're always reviewing safe work practices and making sure that no new hazards have come up. And I might add too that we have lots of students starting every summer as well, so we pay special attention to them when they come in the summer to make sure that they're well supervised and trained.
Well, even though it has been kind of wintry lately in Alberta, it is boating season in the province, and that means officials are on the lookout for invasive mussels. The province says people using watercraft should prepare for mandatory inspections.
From May 1st to September 30th, mandatory watercraft inspections are again in effect for anyone entering Alberta through our eastern and southern borders with watercraft, whether motorized or non-motorized. If the nearest inspection station is closed, boaters must visit one within 7 days and before launching into Alberta waters.
It only takes one watercraft with an attached invasive mussel. One female can open up and release 1 million eggs, which can quickly add to an infestation. The zone of prevention that we have, so BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan don't have invasive mussels. Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick do, as well as many states to the south. That zone of mussel-free is getting smaller every year, so we're feeling that pressure of that prevention getting tighter and tighter, and really comes down to prevention.
Southern Alberta municipalities are sitting down to discuss the future of local infrastructure and how they can collaborate. A one-day infrastructure services regional summit was held this week at the Lethbridge Trade and Convention Centre. Groups shared practical insights to support municipalities, focusing on water, wastewater, fleet services, procurement, waste and environmental issues. Joel Sanchez, the Director of Infrastructure Services for the City of Lethbridge, says the process began last year through engagement with regional partners and site visits to municipalities in the area. They say the goal is to work together to improve services and create greater benefits for everyone.
We all face the same issues. We all have similarities when it comes to delivering services to the community. And the main goal is to see how we work together and how we can actually leverage the services that we do and even the systems that we have to benefit the whole region, which is the outcome that we're trying to achieve today. Some of the topics that we have been discussing, I'm going to use the example of the procurement. We all have different systems or equipment that we all use and maintain, how we can work together in order to do group purchasing, group procurement, how we can ensure that when we have critical parts, we can actually share those across the region.
Coaldale is a key stakeholder, particularly on the potable water side, working with Lethbridge County and the city to, I guess, further our relationship to talk about our needs so that they can build into their infrastructure to help support our future growth is key for our success, but also partnerships on many other aspects because we all do offer the same services. Finding common challenges and issues and finding solutions together, I think, is the key for everyone's success.
Well, if you want to know what's in a typical police officer's arsenal, you'll quickly learn that there is more for a cop to consider than you might think. The Lethbridge Police Service provided Bridge City News with an in-depth look today into some of the de-escalation tools that are on hand and how to best utilize them. Our Landon Hickok has more.
All officers at the Lethbridge Police Service are required to undergo training to de-escalate a situation using the appropriate amount of use of force and a handful of weaponry and tools at their disposal. They were kind enough to demonstrate some of these tools with us, and they even trusted me to handle some of them on my own.
This is our inert training OC. What we carry on the street is this, Sabre Red. This is the inert version, meaning there is no OC, but we can use this and spray it for training for pepper spray. And this is the actual what we carry on the street. This provides us with an irritant that we can put on people's face. The hope is it de-escalates by having them focus on that and wanting to give up from fighting anymore because pain and irritation in their eyes. We carry 2 separate tasers right now. These provide us a tool where we can step back and have a little bit of distance from the subject. If they're combative or they have a weapon, we can use this taser or deploy the taser. It gives us NMI or neuromuscular incapacitation, which means the muscles in the body lock up and the subject can't control the muscles, his skeletal muscles anymore, which helps us in taking that person into custody. It is a force that we de-escalate someone so that we don't have to use lethal force at the end of the day.
Hey, taser.
So the next piece of kit that we have or tool is a shotgun. It's an 870 shotgun. Now, we actually use these shotguns specifically for less lethal rounds or beanbag rounds. And they give us the ability to step back and get some distance and cover to engage its subject, but still to be able to deploy a less lethal round on them. This is a training pistol. You can see this one's blue, but it looks just like our regular Glock 17s that our membership carries right now. And we can actually use this to simulate actual force-on-force engagements where we can have our memberships actually practice firing and shooting and using this under pressure and stress. It actually has a plastic round, you can see right there. And this one doesn't have any coloring in it, but we have ones that are called marking rounds. And you can see where those rounds hit on a person or a target, and it just gives us some indication on how our membership's marksmanship is doing when they're going through scenarios in force on force. All these things are tools that we use for de-escalation, but the more tools we have, the better we can maybe fit a specific tool into the situation that we're dealing with.
In 2025, there were 168 incidents where Lethbridge police recorded use of force. That accounts to 0.36% of calls resulting in a use of force all year. For Bridge City News, I'm Landon Hickok.
Some Lethbridge residents are dealing with a series of planned power outages this week. Beginning today, power outages will impact all residents of the Highland Park townhomes as crews upgrade underground power lines. The townhomes are located just south of 9th Avenue North between 20th and 23rd Streets North. Officials with the City of Lethbridge say these outages will affect the three properties on a rotating basis from approximately 8:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon on their respective days. 8 west properties will be impacted today, 8 central properties will be impacted on Wednesday, and 9 east properties will be without power on Thursday. Residents are reminded to park vehicles outside before the outage because garage doors will not work during a power outage, and treat intersections with non-functioning traffic lights as four-way stops. And before we go to break, a story with a very happy ending. Ashley Blair will have quite a story to tell after giving birth last Friday while flying from Tennessee to Oregon. We get details from Elaine Carroll with the Associated Press.
2 paramedics helped deliver a baby on a Delta flight as it landed in Portland, Oregon. Ashley Blair gave birth to her daughter on Friday night. Paramedics Tina Fritz and Corinne Powell used blankets from passengers and a shoestring to tie off the umbilical cord. Fritz said the birth was fast and simple. Blair was flying from Tennessee to Oregon to be with her mother for the expected birth. The baby came 2 weeks ahead of schedule and the plane 20 minutes early.
Once the plane landed, mother and baby were met by emergency crews on the ground and were reported to be in stable condition.
I'm Sean Haney with RealAgriculture.com. A high-stakes game of regulatory chicken is unfolding in Quebec. The federal government has officially reversed its decision to shut down a specialized Canadian Food Inspection Agency lab in the province, just days before it was slated to close. The lab was part of the Carney government's 2026 expenditure review, which originally identified nearly 600 CFIA positions as surplus. However, the Quebec facility isn't just another office. It is the only CFIA facility in the country with the expertise to verify nutritional analysis and food labeling rules, including critical allergen detection for over 3 million Canadians. While the agriculture industry is calling this a victory for food safety, the reprieve may be just only temporary. The current plan still has the facility slated for closure in 2026. It highlights the growing tension in Ottawa between the push for fiscal restraint and the necessity of maintaining the technical infrastructure that supports our food system. As we navigate new trade deals and labeling rules, the question remains, can we afford to cut the very labs that verify the integrity of the Canadian food brand? For Bridge City News, I'm Sean Haney with RealAgriculture.com.
Experts say Shell's deal to buy ARC Resources could boost LNG Canada. The $22 billion deal could support expansion at the BC export plant, elevating Shell from being Canada's 7th biggest natural gas producer to the number 2 spot. Shell and 4 Asian partners own LNG Canada, the first project of its kind operating in the country. LNG Canada Phase 2 has been referred to the Federal Major Projects Office. McDonald's Canada will launch a revamped drink menu on May the 5th, featuring crafted sodas, fruity refreshers, and foam-topped iced coffees. The move aims to make McDonald's a beverage destination and attract younger customers while boosting profits. The new lineup puts it in closer competition with Starbucks and Tim Hortons in the growing specialty drinks market. Executives say the strategy builds on past test products and could expand further as the company tracks trends and consumer demand. Want to see something really weird? American artist Mark Winkelmann, who goes by the name of Beeple, is showing his interactive installation at a museum in Berlin. The dystopian display has robot dogs with hyper-realistic silicone heads modeled after famous business and cultural leaders like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Andy Warhol. And I must say, it's a little weird.
In the past, our view of the world was shaped in part by how artists saw the world. Now, our view of the world is shaped by tech billionaires who own powerful algorithms that decide what we see and what we don't see, how much we see of it, that's an immense amount of power that I don't think we've kind of like sort of fully understood, especially because when they want to make a change, they don't need to like lobby the UN. They don't need to like get a, you know, something through Congress or get something through the EU. They just like wake up and change these algorithms. Like they have complete control over these things that affect how the world views current events in an immense, like sort of like manner.
I have to say I can think of a couple of other heads that might be fitting there, but I'll keep that to myself. All right, let's take a look at today's markets.
The TSX was down 223 to 33,584. The Dow was down 25 to 49,141. The S&P 500 was down 35 to 7,138, and the Nasdaq was down 223 to 24,663. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $3.25 to $99.62 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 5 cents to $2.67 US. Gold was down $87.05 to $45.9611 US an ounce, and silver was down $2.39 to $73.09 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $8.60 per bushel, barley is at $6.92, canola is at $16.61, and corn is at $7.75 per bushel. Live cattle were up $2.25 to $252.67. Feeder cattle were up $1.50 to $372.07. Lean hogs were down 22 cents to $94.15 for the May contract. And the Canadian dollar was up over the past 24 hours and currently sits at 73.10 US.
Recapping one of our top stories today, the federal government's spring economic update is putting its windfall from better than expected fiscal revenues back into the economy. The fiscal update contains $54.5 billion in new costs and spending since the November budget. The Liberals now estimate last year's federal deficit came in more than $11 billion below the 2025 budget forecast. But the document also contains significant levels of economic uncertainty in the years ahead, thanks to the Iran war and U.S. tariffs. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced the Canada Strong Fund, describing it as a sovereign wealth fund that would invest in national projects. Sounds patriotic, but where's the investment money coming from, and will it actually benefit Canadians? Brian Lilley, Toronto Sun political columnist, will share his thoughts on this and other national issues coming up next. And we want to take a moment to say thanks to those who are catching our newscasts on YouTube. Not only is our full newscast available there, but we also have content you can access on demand from our regular contributors like Brian Lilley and Dave Naylor. Right now, we're on the push to break that 50,000 mark in subscriptions. So if you haven't done so, go to YouTube and hit that subscription button, ring the bell, and that will assure you get notifications about all of our new content when it's posted. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. And to find featured stories and interviews, visit bridgecitynews.ca.